All right, today is Thursday, October 14th. This is our last set of meetings before Backdrop Live next week. This is the outreach meeting, so we're going to be talking a lot about Backdrop Live. Quick introductions before we get into it, though. My name is Jen Lampton. I'm joining from Oakland, California. I am feeling very overwhelmed today. I'd like to turn this over to someone else, maybe Luke.
There's my unmute switch. I am Luke McCormick in San Ramon, California. I'm super excited about the upcoming Backdrop Live. And I'll just turn it over to Savastri.
Hey, my name is Sarvashri, and I'm trying to find a slot to put my Backdrop Live talk for beginners, basically new people coming to Backdrop. I want to help them out because I'm kind of a beginner too. So let's see, let's go to Nate.
Hi, I'm Nate Lampton in Oakland, California. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet. And yeah, like some others, I'm checking in to see how Backdrop Live is shaping up. And I'm excited about it coming in. We have a lot of registrations that keep popping into my email, which is very encouraging. Let's go to Steve.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm Steve. I'm in the UK, in Yorkshire, or Yorkshire, as the outsiders pronounce it, but us in Yorkshire say Yorkshire. We missed the end bit. This is my first, or will be my first Backdrop Live where I host a talk, so I'm pretty excited about that, and looking forward to learning more about the ins and outs of what we need to do to make that happen. Over to Robert.
Excuse me. I'm Robert Lang, web folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California. And I unfortunately can't attend Backdrop Live this time around, but if there's some things I can do to help, I will be happy to do so. And I'll pass it to Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Flapp, Las Vegas, Nevada, US. I don't know, I'm just here to see what's going on before the Backdrop Live thing. See what trouble I can cause.
Okay. I think I'm the last one because Andy said he doesn't have a mic in the chat. So my name's Tim Erickson. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And yeah, I'll just leave it at all consumed with Backdrop Live right now. So let's jump into it because I think we've got quite a bit to talk about today. I'll give a quick summary of what's sort of been happening for those who haven't been keeping up with the flood of stuff in Zulip and other places. Help me with, we have a volunteer that has stepped forward to help with the website, which has really helped move things forward. Sometimes the website has been the last thing to get attention before Backdrop Live, and we're ahead of the game a little bit, which is good. We actually, Irina, and some of you know her, I forget her last name. Anyway, she's known to some people in the community and has stepped forward and has been a huge help the last 24 hours and seems really excited about helping us over the next week too to get ready. What that has meant is that we also are, I would say that in terms of registrations and the scheduling topics, that we're ahead of where we've been in any of the last three. This is our fourth Backdrop Live, by the way. The first one was a year ago, about this time. And I don't know if we're ahead of where we were on that first one, which might have been, had the most work, but certainly over the last one or two, we have more registrations. We're at about 25 right now. And our schedule is fuller than I think it's been, which I think is a good thing. We want to keep a loose, flexible schedule. We want for people to be able to nominate and declare topics on the day of the event. But it's nice to have some stuff seeding the schedule, and I think we're in pretty good shape there. So why don't we? Does anybody have any big broad questions of where we're at or what I've just said? And if not, I think we should take a look at the schedule and talk quickly about it and look at the website. Any thoughts, questions? Okay. Let me. So this is our spreadsheet schedule, and this is one of the difficult things we've had is we haven't had a really great system for sort of signing people up and scheduling sessions in a way that sort of syncs with our website. And we've have some pieces in place where we might in the future be able to have people nominate and schedule sessions themselves. Right now it's a little bit difficult, so we're running the spreadsheet. This has been the only place we had a schedule until last night. As of last night, everything on this schedule, well, I won't say that because things are popping up that I didn't see just a couple hours ago. So there's some things that might be here on this schedule that are not on the website. Right now, the only way to sync those is the fact that I am looking at this, and if other people want to help me, that's great. I'm looking at the schedule every couple of hours, and at least while I'm awake. And when I do, I can make sure the website gets updated. It's not a hard thing to cut and paste. This may be an accident. This time slot 2 should be just our welcome session. That's when we've traditionally done it. On the website, I've sort of listed a number of members of the leadership team: Nate, Jen, myself, other PMC members as the host for that. In the past, I think, Nate, you have shouldered the weight of sort of facilitating that session. Should we talk at all about that right now, like what we want to do during that time block?
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
So
probably why you're here.
Actually, no, I'm just wanting to get the full update, but this is very helpful because this first session, I'm wondering what kind of prominence or importance it should be given. Like
right.
Last time I prepared a bunch of remarks for the core update, but then when I found out we didn't really have much in the opening session slot prepared beforehand, I basically just used my core update for the opening session instead.
Sure.
So I guess maybe just what the topic is, or if this is supposed to be like our keynote, like establishing what kind of importance this first presentation is. I think that would be very helpful for determining its content.
Yeah, I believe at the first Backdrop Live, we did kind of a small group activity in this that I thought actually worked fairly well. I don't know that we've done that since. Jen, do you remember?
I think we used it as like an introduction and let everybody sort of talk to each other, which is something that I don't know. I feel like we should do more of as a community building exercise. It is hard to scale that. So I don't know if it might be worth planning now that we know how to use breakout rooms. We could say assign half the people to each room or something and let some group of people go around and talk about it. I also think this session is really useful as an introduction to Backdrop Live, which is a very different kind of event than a lot of people coming from Drupal camps expect. And Tim, I thought last time we did a pretty good job of like soliciting discussions too. So one thing we might do is when we go around and do the introductions, we could say, if you could tell us what you're hoping to learn through this event, that might spark some inspiration for people to then lead a discussion on that topic, whether it's that person or someone else who's like, oh, I have something to share in that area. So that could be useful.
For context, we've been getting like 15 to 20 people at this opening session, I think, haven't we? Does that seem fair?
I think the first time we had almost 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that event was also more well attended than the last few.
Right. And for those, I mean, I want to say we had like 60 to 70 registrations for the first one, but a bunch of people registered and didn't participate. I think we've been at around 30 to 40 for the last couple. So, although I think given where we're at today, we have the chance of breaking 50 this time, at least registrations. That would be my bet. I think we should do I would recommend we try some sort of introductory thing with breakout rooms now that we've gotten pretty good at them. In fact, I think we did that at one of the early Backdrop Lives where we broke people for 15 minutes into small groups. And we can do that randomly. We can just create 5 breakout rooms and randomly assign people. Should we try that? What do you think, Nate?
There's something Jen said that really struck with me, that this is the first session of the day. And if we were to get other presentations potentially like from other people, it might be the best time to solicit them for those talks. And I guess maybe that doesn't need to be a long thing, but it could be if we wanted to somehow, I don't know, maybe that'd be like pulling teeth, like formalize, like, brainstorming topics, and then trying to get individuals to actually present on them. I'm thinking about the nonprofit developer summit that Jen and I attend pretty frequently. That it's kind of like it's a real circus, if you will, like at the beginning. But they have a unique ringleader in their camp that really just like can just draw people out into giving presentations. And I'm not sure if that's a pattern that can be replicated.
So one thing that you just made me think of, Nate, is that if we had someone who during that first session just wrote down, every time someone said, I'm interested in learning X, they just wrote it down. And then at the end of the introductions, they're like, okay, we have, 10 people who say they're interested in City CRM. And you look around the room and go, Laren, you know something about City CRM. Would you like to? Like it is, we could pull some teeth and help get some of those sessions on the schedule. But I think something that happened last year that was interesting too is that as the event went on, we had people discover that they wanted to do sessions. And I think it would be nice to still leave room for that too. So if we don't have the idea in the opening session, still having a place to have that discussion later is valuable.
Are people noticing that sessions are popping up as we talk? Which is exciting. On the other hand, to Jen's point right now, we're almost getting to the stage where the schedule's starting to fill up. And
more breakout rooms.
Right. That's what I was about to suggest, is that what we could do, and I would like force this schedule to fill up first, but that we open up another room, a third room, right before the event, so that we have a full slot where people can add things. So, well, it sounds to me like we have some consensus that maybe going back to that idea of focusing on introducing people, finding out what they're looking for, and scheduling topics is how we should use that first session. I agree. I mean, that's the sort of open source or the unconference way of doing it. I would love to do that. I have found that when I've tried to do it, it feels like pulling teeth and that I haven't been good at it. I think it's a skill that a really good facilitator can do much better. I think the ideas that Jen and Nate have just both proposed would make it easier. Like that idea of having everybody not ask them to propose a session, but just ask them to say what topics are they interested in, what are they here to learn about, and then writing that all down, and then sort of using that to create sessions that might work.
That's a great idea, and I like the idea of this being, like you say, unconferencey. Plus, that also will make it so. From my perspective, that also frees up things a lot for me. That like last time, having to present 2 presentations that were kind of on the same topic was a little bit challenging. Yeah, okay. So I'm definitely in favor of this.
Anyone else have any questions or comments about this opening session? I think we've got enough to go with.
One thing that might be useful is if we have people who are attending this event and don't know anything about Backdrop, if we immediately go into let's build a schedule, they might feel a little lost. And so if we did like even just 5 or 10 minutes, it's like, this is Backdrop, this is, how our community works, this is how the event works. I think that might help orient people a little more. So yeah, I mean, even just a couple sentences, I think, so people are sure they're in the right place and welcome, even though they don't have any knowledge yet.
Well, let me say something about this backdrop live orientation that's on the schedule before that, because maybe we don't need that. We sort of set the schedule to start at 7 a.m. Pacific time, but I think at some point decided that that was a bit early to start the opening session. So people requested that we do that slightly later. So we did. So we have this session before that. And I think in previous backdrop lives just decided that one thing we could do during that hour beforehand was just sort of have like a welcome room where people could come, ask questions, test out their Zoom gear. And usually what's happened, I think we've done this the last 2 backdrop lives, and it's usually just been an informal chat. People show up, we chat a little bit. But if we're really focused on the opening session the way we're talking about right now, we might not need that. And I don't know if we just leave those time slots open for other sessions, or what do we do with that for slot 1? Any thoughts?
I like having an orientation, especially one that's informal, because I feel like the opening session is going to be a little more formal, and having a place where people can come and ask questions that's not in that setting is still going to be valuable.
Okay.
So I like it.
Okay. Well, let's keep that there and do it like we've done before. I'm going to go ahead and leave this other room open. And if somebody else wants to declare a pre-opening session, they can. But I won't feel bad if that one gets left open, just because we haven't really got started. And to your other point, Jen, about having sort of an explanation of how I think you're right, that it should be part of it is. And so who's going to do that? Who's in charge of facility? Does anybody want to volunteer to facilitate this opening introductions? And we can have more than one person involved, and also the introduction to the conference. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person, but I'm certainly willing to sort of do the talking about how things are going to work.
I think you would be great at that, Tim, because you're so good at this event in general. I'm happy to help write down, like take notes on what it is that people are interested in learning. I usually do that anyway, just on a notepad on my desk, but I'm happy to do it in a shared public document that we can use to choose sessions later.
Okay.
I would prefer not to do the 5-minute what is backdrop bit. If we have someone else who'd be willing to do that, that would be great. If we don't have another volunteer, I can also do that.
Okay. Maybe not to put you on the spot, Nate, but you could be the person to do just 5 minutes on what is backdrop.
I was gonna volunteer unless someone else wants to do it. So yeah, I'll just put myself ahead of Jen as all as being that person. I think the more that we can distribute the responsibilities, the better it looks and the better it is, both for us and for the attendees.
I would also love it if we got someone who wasn't already like a person of authority to do it. Sure. Like a PMC member or a core committer, or just some random person from the community could just as easily share what backdrop is, and perhaps with more passion than those of us who are neck deep in it all the time. So just have it.
Do you think there's any chance
an ace could do it?
Oh, I was going to say Jack, actually.
Oh, Jack would be good too. But they're in a position of authority too. I was hoping someone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but not a lot of people see Jack, like in the issue queues and stuff like that. But Jack is still like actively involved doing PMC work all the time. And so that might be a good way just to get them some visibility.
That's a good idea.
Okay, well, let's work on that. So we need to identify that person. On a related topic, I just plugged in the intro to backdrop session, like a full topic on that right after the opening session without a facilitator, because I feel like we've kind of in the past decided we need to do that, and it seems like a good idea. I think traditionally Jen has done this, but I feel like in the spirit of what she just said, it would be, Jen, speak up and interrupt me, but I feel like you would be happy to have someone else do that.
Yeah.
And at least you've indicated that in the past. So we are looking for somebody to do sort of an intro to backdrop session. if anybody has, like, if we don't think we need it here, or if somebody wants to do it but doesn't want to do it in this time slot, raise that. I don't know that it has to be in this time slot. It just seems like a good place, to launch the day with kind of that intro talk. I'm going to point out that there is another intro to Backdrop on shared hosting that Steve is doing in time slot D, which I don't have any problem with because this is at a very different time slot. It's going to get different people. I think Steve is hoping to promote that to folks in some people in his network. Is that, Steve, do you want to say anything more about that?
Well, with Safari having problems 18 months ago, something like that, with installing Backdrop, I thought I'd, try my hand at trying to explain how to do it on shared hosting. So, and give a bit of a demo on the basics and what it can do out of the box, sort of similar to what Luke's on about with the Ready to Wear initiative. Trying to sort of not get into the technical side of it with CSS and things like that, but just to try and open it up. I was also hopefully or planning on recording it again, if that's acceptable, of course. If it's not, that's fine. So we can put it out on YouTube or something else, or I can put it out on YouTube, etc. It wouldn't be recording the Zoom session. It would be recording it locally for me from my computer. So none of the Zoom video or video feeds would be visible on there. Although the audio, if people ask questions, would be on there, but we can always edit that out. So again, if that's possible. So that's where I was thinking there. And I thought with it being an early session as well, it fills a slot. Even if there's no one that turns up, then I would still do it anyway and go through the motions, just so we've got, or I've got the recording, we've got the recording, and hopefully it may help.
Okay. Well, I see some overlap with the initial Backdrop intro, but also some differences. So. But I want people to understand that there's not a conflict in having that twice, I don't think, even if it were the same, but I don't think it will be. Okay. Any more thoughts on this intro session? I had been sort of thinking about trying to schedule sort of a block of intro sessions in advance, just as sort of a marketing tool, although it's not quite the unconference spirit. I'm starting to, as I look at the schedule though, I'm not so worried about that. And I think with our plans to sort of collect what people want to learn about and to fill in the schedule, that maybe we just do that on the fly and that we not try to force anything else right now.
I can do mine on schedule B, room 2.
Okay.
4 o'clock Eastern.
And what was yours?
My Backdrop for beginners.
Okay, and we might want to think about how that compares to the intro to Backdrop session that we might be doing here, or maybe that's good enough. Maybe we do that instead of the intro to Backdrop.
Well,
how do you see yours being different from this one?
We're not beginners to CMSs or to development generally. And an introduction to Backdrop in that context for them in the opening session would probably address those kinds of people best. I'm looking at beginners in the sense of new to creating websites generally and why they would want to choose Backdrop.
Okay. Well, I'm going to pencil this in here. We can continue to talk about this and see how the two work together. Well, I don't think we've ever filled up this whole block so quickly, so I think it's not a bad thing. Backdrop. We'll have to write up a description for that, Sarvashri.
Yeah, it should be similar to last time. I don't know how to find the last year's spreadsheet or last sessions.
Okay, I'll help you with that. I'm going to just scroll ahead. Nate, I just automatically penciled you in at the time slot you had before for the core development. I assume you're still willing to do that, and or do we want to keep it in this time slot, or?
Yeah, that's great for me. I love the evening. for me. 7 p.m. sounds great.
I think it's worked pretty well. I think we get our best attendance sort of up to about that session. People start to drop off because it's getting late for a lot of people anytime after that, but hopefully we'll be picking up some Europeans and maybe Australians. I don't know. I don't want to go into detail on these other things. We have a real mix of things. Does anybody else have any? Well, the closing plenary, we should talk briefly about that if we want to do any changes to that. What I think, I don't know if we ever did anything more structured. I think it's pretty much just been at every Backdrop Live, how did things go for you? What did you learn? And, and what can we do better next time? Do we have any new ideas for that closing plenary, or? Nope. Okay. So we'll just go with that. Basically, a closing discussion. I'm not sure if the lack of response is that people like this or they just don't have other ideas, or.
I think it's good to have something that kind of caps off the end of the event. Right. I'm not sure it really matters what it is, as long as it's something where like everyone can kind of come together and be like, hooray, we did it, and then fade off. So
okay.
If anyone has any ideas that would make an excellent topic for closing plenary, I would love to hear them.
I like the idea of having at least some time for feedback at that session, but it doesn't have to be the whole session, or it could happen afterward. That could be people just hanging out after the session, but I do like having some sort of a closing. Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going to plan on just sort of doing what we've been doing, unless somebody proposes something, and we still have time for that. An alternative. So are there any other questions about the schedule itself? Any concerns about the content or anything? I mean, I feel really good about it, actually. So I hope everybody else does. Let me just say about Block D. Block D has been the most problematic in terms of getting participation in it. Steve has volunteered to sort of, first of all, make sure that we've got a facilitator there to make sure the rooms are open and working. He's also volunteered to do this one session. We also have our German group who are going to do kind of a meeting in a German language session. I really feel like we have a catch-22 here, in that people kind of write off this session because they assume nobody's going to come, and we don't have enough topics scheduled. And then, that people don't, put topics here because they don't think anyone's going to come, and then nobody comes because we haven't sort of seeded it. I think having these 2 sessions is good, but I'd really love to see like one more to just encourage people that this is a good time slot. We have had some activity in this time slot every time, but sometimes it's been like 2 people or 3 people. But I know we have a number of Europeans that are at Backdrop Live. Some of them, I think, just don't bother with this session because there's nothing scheduled. So any ideas on how to beef up Block D?
What Europeans could we get to talk with about those slots? They were the ones that would probably look at those.
Well, we've got Steve and we've got the German group already there. So I don't know. Greg's not on the call today. Greg is usually willing to do something in this time slot if he's available, and it's just sometimes he's not sure until the last minute if he's available. So I think if Greg's available, he's likely to step in and do something, maybe like an intro to contribution during this time slot, but I'll check with him on that. Okay, should we go ahead and look at the website now?
I have one quick thing about the schedule that probably doesn't go anywhere, but are we locked into the symmetry of the time slots of 3 hours on and 3 hours off? How important is that to us? Because just shooting from the hip, reject it if you don't, but I would prefer shifting D&E by an hour. And that would put some slots in D into East Coast daylight hours. And that would make the beginning of E more palatable to West Coast US people. So I see upsides, but it varies from the symmetry. And there might be other issues I haven't thought about. I just want to throw that out there.
So my instinct is that it's hard for people to remember when things are happening, and 3 hours on, 3 hours off makes sense that you don't have to like check the calendar. You're like, okay, well, I know it's break time now and I have 3 hours and we'll start at X. And if you do that every time, people sort of get used to that returning time. And if you do one session where it's like 2 hours, people will come back and be like, oh, I missed it because they thought it was 3 hours. If we made it 4 hours, and I don't know which way you meant by shifting it, but if you made it 4 hours, I feel like that problem was mitigated a little bit, because if people come back at 3 hours and they're early, they haven't missed anything yet, and they still have the opportunity to come back later. So were you talking about making it earlier or later?
Yeah, no, I was talking about like inserting an hour more dead time after C, pushing D, E, and leaving F where it was, but it could move also. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like there's less risk in that, because then even if people forget that one's different, they're not missing anything. Okay.
So, okay, I thought you were going to propose just shifting block D so that then it'll be 2 hours after D, but you're suggesting shifting the whole schedule after C 1 hour later. Right?
I was actually proposing leaving F where it was and shifting just D and E.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I think is less attractive to me, because now people are going to accidentally miss the first session. And F, if they follow their 3 hours on off session. But I don't know. I mean, it does. I'm not sure where F is matters. Like that's not in a time zone that's particularly hard to fill. Like it's the D block, isn't it? The one we have the most trouble with.
Yeah.
So I feel like if that's a problem area anyway, maybe moving it would help.
Sure. I would be most receptive to the idea of shifting everything after C just 1 hour later. That seemed to cause the least problem. I think it does make the end of the D block maybe a little bit more attractive. I don't know. Steve, you're our European representative. What are your thoughts?
For me, I'm easier. That would work fine for me anyway. I'm normally up early, so sorting out animals and things. So 9 o'clock is fine. 10 o'clock is fine. Without knowing what the demographics are, as in the number of people that are using Backdrop sort of across the board, across the world, it's difficult to say how effective or ineffective moving it would be. But again, there's no qualms for me about moving it. I don't mind at all.
Okay. I mean, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. It could help a little bit, and especially for some early morning risers. I'm sure there are some folks who would love to get up on the East Coast at 7 and participate. I'm not one of them.
So I mean, unless there was like a wellspring of support for us, I'd rather not actually propose it. But I just want to throw it out there, and okay. maybe for Backdrop Live 5, I'll make it more of a proposal so that all the expectations can be managed.
Sure. Okay. Good. Well, I was totally open to it, but if people are comfortable just revisiting this for the next one. That works for me too. Should we leave it at that? Okay. Well, thanks for raising it though, Luke. I think it's a fine idea. Let's go to the website. We've got about 15 to 20 minutes left. Here's me not logged in at the website right now. So there's two things in particular I'd like to talk about in this meeting. First of all, it's just the big development has been this, that the schedule is here. The issue that we're struggling with, that we're working with a bit right now is translating time zones. We have in the past had a big block that listed like the time for each block in 8 or 9 different time zones to help people. We're for the record right now, there are a couple of modules that detect time zones in browsers and can do the conversion. Jen has pointed out that she had some really bad luck with those kinds of tools at a specific event. But I think we're leaning towards maybe experimenting with them and seeing if we can implement them in a better way. Certainly being aware of the fact that this could be a problem. I think the problem that you described, Jen, was that people would get different, that this would perform differently on different devices. So they might look at their desktop and their desktop tell them the session was at 1, and they look at their phone and their phone tells them it's at 3. So, and I definitely see how that could be a problem. But that's what one of the things we're thinking about, and I know just about everybody has an opinion about that. So I wanted to at least acknowledge that.
Robert has his hand up.
Oh, I'm not able to kind of see everybody, so thanks for, go ahead.
Yeah,
Robert.
So what I was going to suggest, as folks know in the Zulip chat, I have made one suggestion, and I will mention that the website I've run used it for a conference with 700 attendees and from 40 countries, and didn't get complaints. But what I was going to suggest as a way to maybe dip our toe in the water is to install user time zone tokens and its support modules, and then just try it out on the home page of the site. You've got the schedule up now, but we briefly put up the page, the main page for the event. And we could just try it out on that page and, give the dates and times of events and blocks and see if that works for people. And, and if it does, and there's no confusion, then consider moving it more broadly into the schedule. And if it doesn't, it's something that's easily reverted to a fixed time description.
Another thing too is that we could definitely put 2 times, right? Where one of them is hard coded and the other one is adjusted for your local time zone.
Yes.
And that way, one of them will never change regardless of what you're looking at. And if the other one changes, you at least have the opportunity to tell, oh, that's not my time zone. But you also have something where, if you wanted to do the math yourself, you can. And that would be pretty easy to, we've got both versions there. If people really like the local one and it's no problem, we just turn off the hard coded one. If people really have problems with the other one, we turn off the dynamic one. So that might make it easy fallback.
I've definitely been assuming that we would probably end up something like that, but I don't know exactly what it'll look like yet.
So I was going to, even though I can't attend, I was going to volunteer to do that for the homepage. I just need permissions to install and configure modules and then edit that page.
So I think you should already have access to the GitHub repository as being part of the web team. And we can put your key on server if you need to deploy stuff.
Is this okay? So it's not, if you can deploy to a backdrop cms.org, can you also deploy to this site, Jen, or is that separate?
So if you had root access, you could, but it's under different users. So you need to be able to be the other user.
Got it.
Is this system basically auto-detecting their time zone and then calculating what it would be for them? Or
That's the system that Robert's proposing would do that. Yes.
or we could have them, select their time zone, and then
That's the thing that presented a problem, because in order to ask someone their time zone, you need to know who they are. And so that means they either need to be logged into the site or have a cookie. And as soon as you do that, you're now a different person on different devices. Or like logged in, logged out, or different cookies or what have you. So that gets hard.
Would it be possible to put a header up there that says, your time zone has been detected as, if it's not, change it here, and then they can have a drop-down box to change it or something similar?
We did that. Didn't work. Yeah. And we even like changed, so we changed the way the time zones were printing because people just wouldn't read it. We like made them bold. We're like, this time zone, it didn't matter. It was just like, I think that Backdrop users might be a little more savvy than average conference attendees, but like going to the user profile page to change your time zone wasn't really something we could convince people to do.
Right.
So it's like either auto detected correctly or they didn't know what time things were.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think we have a plan to try this. I think the key, though, is that we understand the problems that could come up, and we're sensitive to them. Also, if we get something in place, we do a little pre-conference testing, specifically ask some people to try this out using different devices and just see what the results are. And if we're getting really bad results, maybe we fall back before the event.
We can also try a CDN and switch to every time zone and see if there's any that, maybe not everyone in the whole world, but see how it goes.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That seems like a whole nother set of possible problems, but we'll let that go. So there's that issue with the website. So right now we're just, for today, we're just hard coding the 7 p.m. Pacific time. This is not what you can expect to see, though, in a few days. One of the great things about, though, getting this going at all is that we can now promote specific topics in social media, which I think is a great tool for just promoting awareness about Backdrop Live. It gives our facilitators and topic organizers the ability to promote their topic in a much better way than you could from the spreadsheet. So I know Irina is excited about that ability to promote specific topics. Is there the other big issue on the website is, well, not a big issue, it's a small one, and maybe John, you and I could talk about this later, is that right now, I would like feedback on the registration process in general, recognizing that it's a bit clunky for those who haven't tried it. I mean, basically right now, we just have you go and you create a registration. During the course of creating a registration, you can log in first, but you don't have to. You can register. During the course of registration, it creates an account for you. You don't have to log in, though, to be registered, which means also that we don't know for sure that you're confirmed. And then we ask you to go to make a donation. From the very beginning with Backdrop Live, we have wanted to use this as an opportunity to generate some revenue, but we haven't wanted to block anyone from participating based on cost. Originally, it was sort of, right on the ticket. The first time we did this with Eventbrite, and you could either do a donation or sort of skip that and get a free ticket. In this case, you don't even have the option of paying when you're registering or donating when you're registering. You have to physically go and do that afterwards. Jen and Nate, I have no idea what's happening in terms of donations. Do we have a sense that most people are?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of donations.
Okay, excellent. So that's one thing, is I would like to have a better sense of how that's working. But the other problem we're having, Jen, that maybe is solvable, is that a number of people have registered twice, because they first register before they've created an account, and then they come back and create an account later. I'm not sure why they feel like they need to do that. But from my perspective, those people who register without logging in, we don't have email information for them in their registration. we do in their account, but if we use the registration module to send out updates, I don't know if the registration module knows who they are. I don't want to share the screen and the video of actual registrants, but
Yeah.
you and I could look at
So
that later.
the registration module does collect email address if you're not logged in. However, it has been customized for Backdrop Live, and I think it intended to only be used for people who were logged in, and so that email field might be forcibly hidden. So we could either change it so that it works the way we intended it to be worked, so that you do have to create an account first, or we could look at that customization and make sure that it'll work for either use case. But it is supposed to create a user account using the email address they provided.
Right.
And so if they didn't provide an email address, like the whole thing wouldn't work. So it's got to be in there somewhere.
Right. I believe that we have their email addresses, but I believe that we have them as part of their user account and not as part of their registration. And my fear is that when we use the registration system to send out updates, it's not going to know what those people's emails are, even though they're in the system. The
way the account registration module works is it takes the email address field from registration and also saves it in user account. So if that's not working, there's something funky going on there. But we couldn't have it as the user account if it wasn't provided to us.
Right. So let's just take a look at that later.
Okay.
I mean, most people seem to have accounts, so this is only affecting, I don't know, 1 out of 7 or 8 people that are registering without first logging in or creating an account. Some of those people have just naturally went back and created an account and registered again. And so I have a feeling that something about that process is making them uncertain.
I just tried to register, and I thought it would use the same information from last time, which was, I guess, an Eventbrite or something. I used that registration, that password, but it didn't recognize it. Didn't recognize any of the passwords that I've used on the Backdrop sites in the past. So I don't know why. So I was going to have to register again.
So Rashmi, I can check in with you. In theory, only the first Backdrop Live did we use Eventbrite. The last two we used this system, and we did keep accounts. So if you registered for either of the last two Backdrop Lives, your account should still work. If it's not working, then that's a problem we just need to solve.
Okay, maybe I didn't record what I used.
Okay, well, I can help you with that later if you need help.
Yeah, I can just have it send me the password.
If nobody has any more questions about the website, and it's probably okay if we go a little bit over, right? Because if we need to, I'd like to talk just about last minute promoting of the event. But before I do that, any last minute questions about the site itself, or concerns or things you'd like to see us do with the site? Okay. Not hearing any and being short on time, I think the last thing I want to do is talk about outreach and what we can do. Again, I'm not worried about outreach. I think we're doing pretty good. We got out we did finally get out an email to our 2,000 plus newsletter subscribers yesterday, which gave us a significant boost in registrations. We went from the low teens to 25 within 24 hours. And a lot of people tend to register for an event like this in the last week. So I expect to see us, at least 35 to 40 people would be my guess right now. And with some good outreach, we could exceed that. I want to mention that we had this Twitter post, which I wrote, and hopefully nobody has any questions about, but we've gotten 31 retweets, which from our Twitter perspective is way more. If we get 4 or 5 retweets, we're happy. So we have had a little bit of social media success here. If there's any feedback on this, let me know. I'd love to see people if you're on Twitter and haven't seen this yet and can retweet it, I think to me it's not a mean message, but it's just too many Drupal 7 sites are moving to WordPress, Wix, and other platforms, and they don't know about Backdrop. Let's get the word out, is basically, and a lot of our Drupal friends have been tweeting that. So, but is there anything else that people think we should be doing in this last week before Backdrop that we haven't been doing, or to promote Backdrop Live?
Hi, everybody. It's Neil. I was just chatting with, or about to chat with you all. So I put an announcement on the Civi CRM Mattermost Slack alternative spaces. I'm not noticing any Civi life on the agenda, so I'm happy to try and also nudge that into happening unless Lauren or Jack are going to come and speak. And I'll also, Nat and Jane, sleep deprivation, and on recording now as well. Jen and Nate, I'll also put an announcement on the NP Dev Summit aspiration list as well this afternoon.
That'd be great. Thanks, Neil.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Anything else you can think of that I might be able to do?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's great. Just to self, Neil. I think that's where I think your connections are the strongest, if I'm not mistaken. So you know your connections better than us, and I think that's appreciated.
Sure. Can you speak to Civi presence?
Well, I can say that we don't have any official topics yet. I think Laren did it recently, so he's been a little bit not sure if he wants to do it again, was my sense. And he's got some other topics on the schedule. So, I mean, there's two routes. I mean, I think it would be great to just have an introduction to Civi. Like, we can't do that too often because there's always new people looking for that. On the other hand, we do have this big initiative to use Civi internally. So we could also do something related to our own internal use of Civi CRM at Backdrop Live. I think those are two different approaches. And yeah, it's just a matter of getting somebody to lead that discussion.
Okay. I just don't hang out with you guys, but I'm glad to hear that Civi is alive and well inside of your organization. That's fun to hear. Worth promoting for sure. And yeah, I mean, I can also just put out some requests in Civi Land if there's anybody who wants to come and do an intro to the Backdrop community next week. Is that what I'm hearing? That might be of use.
Yes, you know, I think we would all love it if it were a new face that showed up and came to talk about Backdrop instead of just one of us that have done this before.
Okay, well, I mean, I think the Backdrop Civi people are already in your circle, so it'd probably be somebody who's new to Backdrop who would speak just to Civi, if that's of use.
That would be great. In my opinion, that would be great.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure some of us that have Backdrop Civi experience would be there, and we could contribute that if it was needed. But yeah.
Okay.
You know, and they should know they don't have to do a full formal presentation. You know, they can just come and do something kind of informal, a short demo, and then lead a discussion, answer questions.
I'll see if I can incite that.
Good.
And so who should they be in contact with?
I'm handling a lot of that, but it doesn't have to be me. So feel free to have people contact me. They could also just drop into our Zulip chat. But I'm sure, you know, other people here could also field that. Why don't you just go with me just so that it's clear?
Okay. Can you stick your email address in the chat there?
Yep, I will do that right now.
Zulip is just one other barrier. I'm not going to invite people to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Over and out. Nice to see you.
Thanks for dropping in, Neil.
I just meant I'm going to be quiet now, but I might just stay for the next few minutes. Thanks, Nate.
Yeah,
It was by design. I knew the conversation would be relevant at some point for me.
we will be moving into our developer meeting shortly, but I don't know. Do we have anything else on Backdrop Live? Nothing? One of the things Irina, I think, plans to do, and why she really wanted to get the schedule up on the website, was she wanted to start emailing contacts, her personal contacts, and inviting them, and she wanted content to point them towards. And I'm just mentioning that because that's certainly something all of us could do to help out, is if you know people who are, you think would be, interested in this, they may not be seeing our social media channels. And if you could send them an email or a Facebook post or something, just pointing them at the event's website, that would be really helpful. And it's probably the most effective form of promotion that we can do, if we can get some people doing that. During the first Backdrop Live, I was contacting lots of people directly. I haven't been as direct recently.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I used to work on the Drupal thing at Stanford, so, and I'm still on the Stanford Drupalers mailing list. So I'll connect with Irina and make sure that one of us sends something to that.
Okay.
And probably ping Quinn too.
So Luke, while you're still unmuted, what else should we be doing to promote this in the last week?
Well, let's see. Besides Twitter, and I'll do a few more Facebook things. LinkedIn seems like a pretty active thing. So I'll do that one as well. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook a lot. If anybody's on Instagram, everybody under 30 uses Instagram constantly, although I can't imagine why, but they do. So I don't know, do a screenshot of something and put it on Instagram. If anyone knows how to make a 6-second video, you can put on TikTok. I sure do.
Yeah. I have a TikTok account and I know how to make a video, but I'm pretty sure that it would get 2 views. So that's it. I don't have any, I'm a passive user of TikTok. You need somebody that has a channel with followers. So
I could get a TikTok video out to about 10,000 cat lovers. So I'm not sure that's our audience.
Well, did any of them want to build a website? So, I don't know.
We need to get
cat in the video. They'll be like, "Ooh, I need the cat software."
Invite them to come meet the dragon.
Yeah, there we go.
Ooh.
Jen, help me out. Are there any sort of logistical last minute day of logistics that we should talk about now? I'm thinking things like, this would be the last thing. Things like, we talked about having sort of a safety person or something, designated for all the sessions. Somebody that was just a volunteer that was prepared to deal with any situations that came up in the past. I don't think we've done a good job at formally scheduling that. We've done a decent job at sort of informally having people available, but I think it wouldn't hurt if we had an actual formal schedule with somebody identified in every block that they're just the contact.
And that person should have the Zoom access so that if we have any problems with rooms closing or whatever, they can get everything back open. Another thing too is we should make sure that all of the scheduled sessions have the Zoom link in them, because people will go to the schedule on the website in order to find it. Even if it's the same link for all sessions, I still think that will help people get there. We can probably use the same link as last year, which might already be on all the notes. We could put it as a default value or a bulk update or something. So we don't have to update all of them, but just to help people get there more easily. And then the only other thing that we do last minute is post that block on the homepage. But if Robert's already working on that now, we'll probably just need to change the access on it or something in order to make it visible to everyone. So that'll be easy.
I think it already is a default value, the link to this Zoom room.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. Nate, or if anybody thinks we need to cut this off for the other meeting, let me know. It raised 2 questions, one of which is, initially we talked about, so we don't like tweet out the link to just come and join our sessions live without registrations. On the other hand, we also don't discourage that, right? So once back in the past, sort of the assumption was that people would register, we would send the link out to registrants, and they would know where to find the session. We wouldn't block other people from getting into them, but we also didn't like just tweet it out on Backdrop or on. I mean, I still think that's true that we, as a practice, we don't tweet out the link to our Zoom room, but I'm just wondering if there's any change in sort of how we want to be handling the sort of casual drop-ins. Like, should we be promoting an individual session in the middle of Backdrop and saying, hey, to people who haven't registered, or do we want to avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be fine promoting individual sessions, but I would love to steer them towards the events page in general. So rather than, hopefully that one event will trigger their interest in the whole conference rather than just being there for that hour. And that might make them register and give a donation too. But if they get a hold of that Zoom link and pop in for an hour, I still think that's good. And I wouldn't want to put any restrictions on that. But yeah, I'm hesitant about putting the Zoom link anywhere publicly just because of Zoom bombers. And in general, like we use this link for lots of stuff, and the more we can protect it, the better. But I still want it to be easy for people to use. So my general thought.
Well,
Can we make a burner link?
Well, so this is already like a bit.ly. We could make any number of other bit.lys to the same thing if we needed to, but.
Okay. The other question that came up earlier in the meeting, but we didn't address, is the recording question. Steve wanted to record his session. I think everybody's aware. We always get people asking, are things going to be recorded? Our general policy is not to record things. In fact, on our FAQ on the website, it says we do not record any sessions. What is discussions? We do not record any. Yes, that we offer the opportunity for people to pre-record things, but they would not be live. I am a strong proponent of the not recording a lot of things. I'm not an absolutist. If we can find a way to record some things, I'm okay with that. But it just leads to that problem of then how do we know what is recorded, what isn't? Does anybody have thoughts on that? Steve has specifically requested that he would like to record his session.
I think that's fine as long as no one attends your session, Steve. But the problem is you don't want to get anybody's name or face on there. And even if you're recording like halfway through and someone shows up, they don't have the opportunity to opt out. And if the entire event is advertised as being not recorded, then that's a problem. If there's a way that you can change the recording area so it's not recorded through Zoom and you're only recording the part that you're there's no problem with having you on the recording. But if you can make it so that you're not going to get anyone else's information, I am all in favor of that. We just need to be careful that we're not getting people in trouble or making them uncomfortable in a way that would make them not want to attend. Or
that was the plan, to record it locally before it gets to Zoom. So nothing on Zoom is recorded. Audio may be recorded, and we can put a disclaimer up on there as well if need be. And we can always take the audio out before it gets put onto YouTube or anything like that. But in general, it would be recorded before the video got to YouTube.
That's great. I also think we could find a way to support recordings more. Like sort of the way this event is designated right now is that it's all discussions for the most part, and there's like, oh, if you want to have a presentation you can, but that's sort of not the expectation people have for events. I was thinking it might be useful if we in the future would say like, hey, the first day of the event is all presentations, and made some very clear distinction to people, and then everyone would know, okay, I'm going to bring my stuff, it's going to be recorded, I'm prepared. And then have a day of like, okay, now it's the BOF day or whatever, where everything is a conversation. And then at least the expectations will be set appropriately, and we can do a bunch of sort of marketing around how that would happen. But the way that things are set up right now is tough because it's not what people expect. And so trying to set rules around that is really hard.
I like that kind of a solution. So let's talk about that for the next one. Yeah.
I also think like more the more content about Backdrop, the better. And this is a great source of content. We just need to be really careful because it's mostly people talking. That, you know, I say stupid things all the time, and I'm fortunate that my employer is very forgiving of that. But that's not always the case. So.
Okay. Shall we? I'm going to say we wrap this meeting up, and then presumably the Dev meeting will be starting shortly afterwards. Okay, everybody, bye.